Hello, my name is Alan, and this evening in my time, I'm facilitating what's turned out to be the third of three, rather than the fourth of four, because of some technical difficulties one of the players had last week, and another player's had to drop for perfectly understandable personal reasons. So this is the finale of a series of my game of Dark Age monster hunting, Eotenweard. It is part 3 of the Prefect's gift. And we are going to be rolling on from where we left off in session 2, aiming to complete in a satisfying way things tonight. This game is organized as part of the Gauntlet RPG community's monthly calendar. The Gauntlet, if you don't know about the Gauntlet, you should certainly check it out. If you Google Gauntlet RPG, you will find us and all we do. Not just a games calendar with 100 or so monthly sessions each month of a variety of narrative, independent OSR type games, but also a monthly zine if you choose to back the Patreon, and at a certain level, if you choose to join the Patreon, you will get priority access to joining our games, and podcasts. Of course, I've got the podcasts. So please come and join the Gauntlet, and keep your eyes open for the Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Weekend. I will get the date wrong, but go to the website. I think it is starting on the 16th of July. This is an opportunity to come and play with us for free, so to speak, and we hope introduce more people to the joys of online gaming in this time of coronavirus. I should have said my pronouns are he, him. I forget to say that because I've now written it up on the screen. So forgive me for that. We are playing with some safety tools. We're playing with the X card. We're playing some lines and veils. Both the players I've played with before, and they understand how all of those work. If you don't, please go back and check episode 1, which has a bit more detail on this. So we will pick up where we left off. But first, I would like to give our players and a chance to introduce themselves and their characters. So can I begin with Bodhi? Say hello and tell us something about Morwenna Flamekeeper.
Hi, I'm Bodhi. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm playing Morwenna Flamekeeper, who is a pagan mystic, a devotee of Brigit, who is, unusually for this time, a Celtic pagan, and generally believes in the benevolence of the old gods, but has had that belief sorely challenged at the end of the first session, and was off last session seeking guidance from her god.
And we'll see where that guidance plays into this finale session during play. Thank you. Stentor, say hello and introduce us to Aelfwyn.
Hello, I'm Stentor, pronouns they, them, and I am playing Aelfwyn. So she is a Saxon chieftain's wife who is undead now, and because of her failure to keep up her end of a deal with the gods, excuse me, and we're gonna get to meet her ex-husband soon. So
yes, and not having learned her lesson by making a deal with the Saxon gods and then reneging on it and being forced to walk the earth as a revenant. In the last session, Aelfwyn made another deal. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I promised to help some monks rebuild a monastery that my husband destroyed and slaughtered all but one of them, which was what I was supposed to stop him from doing in the first place with the previous deal. So I'm just, it's like when you take out a loan from one bank to pay off a loan you have from a different bank, but
Yeah, I hope that were Aelfwyn to play in more sessions of Eotenweard, we will see how that tension between the sets of gods play out, but we'll see what happens tonight. So yes, so we ended last session at the monastery that Aelfwyn's husband Ulric had destroyed. We are leaving one of the players there. We are hoping a third player is going to join us. He's having technical difficulties, so if he does join, fine and dandy. If not, then he too will have remained at that monastery. The just to give some sense of direction, we started play down here at Danum. Where the prefect wanted a demon dealt with. You've travelled to the monastery, which is located down here at the edge of the map. And interestingly, in the Eotenweard canon that's built up over the last 12 months of playing on the Gauntlet, there is a character called Ulric, who is the head of a settlement over here on the far side of the Great Mire. And so, unless Stent or you object, I'd like that to be your Ulric.
That sounds great to me.
We've not met his wife in any other game, so it's perfectly reasonable to suggest that she is now dead. And I suppose it is important to note that he thinks you are dead. He does not know that you are walking the earth. And we have some character art for Ulric. That is Ulric the Fish of Torksey, as previously appeared in these games. I can see perhaps why he married an attractive Saxon lady and why perhaps she preferred death to anything else. He's not a very charming fellow. Scheming, venal, a most unpleasant chap. So I think what we will do is we will, rather than having Aelfwyn describe in any great detail what happens on the journey to Torksey, what I will ask Aelfwyn is what's the thing that encourages you on your journey? We'll have a montage, I guess, of you traveling cross country, hoping to retrieve the holy artifact that you believe you need to dispel the demon at Danum.
So I was actually wondering, should I roll my seeming human move and maybe work the results of that into what I say about our journey there?
That would be really neat.
Okay. So let's see. So roll plus soul. Oh, I got 12 on the dice.
Would you like to read the move just for the benefit of our audience?
So it says, you usually clothe yourself in the appearance of humanity, but mortals can sometimes sense your true nature. At the start of each session, roll plus soul on a 10 plus, which is what I got. Your outward appearance is seamlessly maintained. So
with that in mind, what is the part of your journey we see which reassures you that this is going to go well?
Let's see. So I think what reassures me that this is going to go well for us is that it doesn't look like it's going so well for most of the people that live in this area. So they are, this is not a situation where we're going to be marching in and telling the beloved leader whose people all, have his back that we need to take his holy relic. But it's actually a situation where there's probably already some tensions that we could exploit and, ongoing problems. And, plus having just seen like up close and personal what Ulric really did, I feel a little bad. I still feel like bad about not stopping it, but I also don't have much sympathy for him. Any residual feelings that I might have had towards him were pretty well erased by seeing what really happened to the monastery. That's so great. There's a little Schadenfreude in seeing that his realm is not doing so great, despite having looted this monastery.
So if I were to interpret that as saying that the common people are not going to rush to his defense if this turns ugly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's got, his people that are loyal to him for one reason or another, but the populace in general is not going to rise up in support of him because they love him.
Yeah, fine. So his warband may still be loyal and see the benefits of him, but yeah, the common people are going to side with you. Or we don't know. Maybe they will side with you, but they certainly want to oppose you.
Yeah,
great.
They're not automatically going to side with him.
Yeah. And I suppose the contrasting question is, as you come in sight of Torksey, what reminds you that this won't be simple? What do you see?
So I think we then do see his warriors are everywhere. I think because there's this kind of unrest and things aren't going great, he's making a really clear show of force. And so he's got, armed people stationed, sometimes much more publicly than you might see in other settlements like Danum or something, just to like remind people that, we have a king and you better stay in line.
Now, I think, Bodhi, what I want you to do is to do the first part of the love letter. I'm not going to, prompt you to activate it properly. But do you want to just, because I think in our opening scenes, we see Aelfwyn making her way around the mire to get to Torksey. And then I think we will cut to Morwenna. So do you want to read the kind of first bit? I don't know if you want to get as far as rolling the dice, but certainly the first bit.
So the audience knows that I left to seek guidance when I heard the dark old gods lay a debt on Kaganos. This shook my belief that the old gods are fundamentally good, and that it is only the weakness of some mortals that leads their power to be corrupted. Here is clear evidence that some of the old gods are trying to encourage chaos in the mortal world. What the audience doesn't know is what happened after I left Danum. And there you asked me to describe a brief montage or scene showing the audience how I sought guidance.
I think it would be good to see that now, because we have a special effects budget. So, go ahead.
So, I sought guidance in anger rather than piety, because I had been led to believe by my experiences of faith that the old gods were a positive force. And I now, to a certain extent, I blame Brigit, my patron deity. I blame her for concealing a schism, a dichotomy of to use anachronistic language, a war in heaven, as it were. So I enter a grove somewhere within, I guess, a day or two's travel from Danum that I know of, and I go about making the normal preparations I would to enter the other world and commune with Brigit. But you can see that every aspect of those preparations is, while technically correct, is slightly skewed so that it makes my anger very obvious in the way that I'm preparing this ritual. So I cast a circle sloppily, and where I would normally kind of carefully kind of bathe and prepare my body, I angrily kind of slap some river water over myself, like all the components are there. And you see, as I start to enter the trance state, kneeling by this sacred well of Brigit, that as the apparent world fades away and is replaced by this shifting other world with swirling colors, you can see that that in that world, Morwenna is represented with her hair aflame and looking like an elemental coming in vengeance. It's clear that she is not happy and that she is a disruptive presence in this place at this point.
Unless you want to roll the dice now and know what you're going to get when you step into a scene, I have one question for you, really, and that is whether are you going to spit in Brigit's eye? Is this indicative of you almost stating your independence? Is that what we're seeing? Because I'm just wondering whether you want to, accept your burden of wrath and activate it so that you could reduce the debt that you currently owe to Brigit.
I think that I feel like it is spitting in Brigit's eye, but not declaring kind of independence permanently. It's saying, at the moment, I don't trust you. You've been keeping things from me.
Okay, so reduce your debt to Brigit from 2 to 1, but you are now subject to that burden, which is wrath. You are compelled to destroy someone or something useful or valuable until you hurt someone. Okay, so yeah. that's live at whichever point you choose to do whatever you choose to do. So let me cut back then to now that our audience knows that Morwenna is on the warpath. Aelfwyn, just how are you thinking of approaching the settlement of Torksey? Let's say that it's dawn. Do you want to wait until later in the day? Wait until it's night? What is Aelfwyn thinking?
So I think that Aelfwyn wants to come in during the day, just kind of blending in with the crowds, and not kind of reveal who she is until she has a chance to directly confront Ulric.
I am conscious that the burden that Aelfwyn labours under is that of pride. Do you think that sneaking in fits with that?
It's definitely a challenge to her.
So would it be fair to ask you to roll to face some danger in order to kind of suppress that prideful approach?
I think that works.
So that is roll plus steal.
All right. And let me see. My steel is, okay, 0. Okay, so that's a 7.
Sailing very close to the wind. On a 7 to 9, the GM gives you a worse outcome, a hard choice, or a price to pay. Okay, you can approach. You can enter the settlement apparently unnoticed, but only by discarding some of the. Did we ever talk about whether your clothing is part of being a revenant? I have a vague recollection, but I can't remember what decision we made.
I don't remember addressing this. My assumption going along had been that, like, my body was brought back and my spirit and stuff, but clothing, like any other possessions I had, functioned in kind of the normal mortal way.
Okay, so you can do this, but only if you besmirch what's left of your finery with mud, so you don't stand out. You just look like a muddy traveler, and maybe muddy up your face. So you can arrive relatively discreetly, but at that cost. Is that a cost that Aelfwyn is prepared to pay?
I think at this point, yes. It's a difficult choice, but it's one that she's willing to do.
And what does Aelfwyn remember about where Ulric keeps his most valuable possessions?
So I think that he has kind of like a treasure room that's attached to his private bedroom, so that he can go in there and kind of Scrooge McDuck his possessions, that because he doesn't want to put too much on display where other people would see it in case somebody decides to try to snatch it. And usually has a guard or two stationed there. You're muted.
I am. He definitely looks like someone who covets that which he has taken. And just to remind our audience, we are the artifact that you originally set out to find, believing it was necessary to see off the demon, was a horseshoe. The horseshoe from from St. George. And what you do know is that during the raid, that horseshoe, one of the Saxons, one of Ulric's men, joked about turning the horseshoe into a weapon, probably into a dagger, as a kind of spit in the eye to the Christian god, who beats swords into plowshares. So horseshoes into edged weapons seems fair. So that's what you're looking for. So okay, what do we see then? So we probably have some kind of shot showing Aelfwyn coming through the stockade that surrounds this. It's not a vast settlement. I describe it as a big village rather than a small town. Thatched roofs, wattle and daub buildings. Ulric's Hall is at the center of the settlement, a large thatched, almost barn-like structure. But as you have pointed out, his warriors are about in numbers. And tell us something we see that shows that the common people, probably mostly Celts rather than Saxons, are under a heavy burden. What do we see maybe one of the guards doing? I don't know, you tell me.
So I think as people are coming in through the gate into the stockade, the guards are hassling people and taking sort of requiring small bribes from anybody. So if you're a farmer bringing some produce in, you know, you have to give them something, and not always anything huge, but you know, it's kind of the indignity of it is the point, right? That you have to hand something over to these guards, or else they won't let you through. You know, or they'll hassle you, and so forth.
Well, then that then begs the question of what form does any hassling take of Aelfwyn, and how does she face it down or distract it?
So I'm trying to decide. It would be interesting if the specific guard that she goes up to is somebody that she remembers. I'm
very happy for you to do what you like with this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I think there could be some good drama there, because then she has to kind of stay extra hidden from him because he might recognize her, but it also means that she kind of knows what his proclivities are.
What do you want to do?
So yeah, and I don't know if there's a role you'd like me to make to sort of do this storyline, but so I'm envisioning there's, you know, so it's this particular guard that that she happens to know, and I'm trying to think a good sort of what his like weakness is.
Cunewulf is his name, and you tell me what his weakness is.
Yeah. Let's see, because I'm trying to decide if I want to go the like very personalized bribe route, or if I want to go the like subtle but cutting insult to fluster him so that he lets me through route.
To do it. Whatever you want to do, I'll roll with it.
Yeah, I got to think of a good, like, the specifics of either of those scenarios. I feel like the latter is probably more appropriate to the situation, because she's not coming here to make nice with these people.
So if you were going with the cutting barb, so is it fair to say that Cunewulf, is his weakness that he is he bullied by his wife?
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah. So how is Aelfwyn going to exploit that to make this go smoothly?
Let's say that his wife has a relatively common name, you know, the equivalent of Jane or Mary. Well, so, or maybe something more like Emily, something that's not like a generic name, but still fairly common. It wouldn't be weird for two people to have that name. And so when he asks her her name as she comes in, she gives this name, you know, her false name is the same as his wife's name, and she puts a little emphasis behind it to kind of, you know, try to put him in the like the same mindset where he wouldn't talk back to his wife.
Let's call her Osber.
Osber, okay.
I no Saxon scholar me, so I don't know how common that name was, but let's go with Osber.
We'll say it is, yeah.
And you know, he kind of just looks, and I think that gives you fictional leverage over him if you wanted to convince him to just, you know, this is not the visitor that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
So let's have you roll to convince to see how well
Someone
Good Wolf.
subtle is 1. Okay. Okay. That is a 9.
So on 7 to 9, they'll do it if you do something for them first or owe them a debt of honor. What on earth? He says, that name. What? You're not from around here, are you?
Of course, I'm from around here.
But I don't recognize you. And do you know my wife?
Who's your wife? I'm sorry.
Well, she's called Osber as well. And there's something about you that I don't like.
Well, I mean, maybe it'd be fun for me to meet her. If we've got the same name, we've got something in common.
No, I don't want you to meet my wife. No, go on your way. The idea of 2 Osbers in a room with Cunning Wolf is something he cannot bear. But you can see he's looking after you as though to say, that was he's not entirely convinced, I think is the way I'll play that. But we'll see whether that matters later on. And so you're in the village. As I say, a population of perhaps a couple of hundred people. Some people going from the fields, as you've pointed out. Some people arriving to trade. And there in the middle of the village, the tallest, in the sense that it's got a reasonably steep pitched roof, is this barn-like hall of Ulric the Fish of Torksey.
Okay. So I'm going to approach the hall and tell the guards outside of it that I have a petition to lay before Ulric, and I'll have concocted some whole backstory about like somebody stealing my goats or something. The kinds of stuff that I remember he always because I have a pretty good sense, I think, of which petitions he's likely to think are interesting enough to warrant him making a ruling on, and which ones he'd tell them to tell people to go home and sort it out themselves. So I give a made up story that is kind of on point for what I think he'd likely bring into.
I think stolen animals are always a good one for Ulric, because what you know is that Ulric, when he rules on it, he'll then take one of the animals usually as payment for his judgment, because that seems only fair to him. And so I think that the idea of coming to petition about your goats is probably a good one. And again, we're going to, it'll hold your disguise. I think I am going to, once you get in the hall, I think that things may get a little trickier, because this is your home, inverted commas. This was your home. Pretending to be this rather kind of meek commoner, peasant, might get a bit strained in there, just so you know that. Yeah? Now you have a sword, don't you?
I do.
And you will be expected. Now, I think first of all, there's a slight surprise if that's not hidden, because to be honest, you don't look the part as though you should have a sword. This goat herd come in from the country, so I'll give you an option to decide what you do about that sword. Is it hidden?
Yeah, I think I've hidden it. I've got my pack with my, tent and some food and stuff in it that I'm carrying, and I'm like hunching over trying to make it look like it's really heavy, because I'm just a laboring person and stuff. And I've kind of put the sword like in the middle of it and packed other things around it so that it's not visible, because I want to have it around, but it would kind of spoil the disguise if I was openly wearing a sword.
And I think it will be not there will be some kind of challenge to draw it for that reason. How bad that challenge goes, who knows? You may not even need it. And so you enter the hall, and there are probably a small group of people. You can see Ulric sitting on the big chair at the front of the hall. You've timed this to arrive at a time of day when he would be listening petitions, and you can see he's sitting back in his chair, and he's clearly bored senseless by this drivel that these people, these peasants, when all he really wants to do is to squeeze them for an extra tithe of their crops, and yet he has to listen to this drivel, and this is an argument about a land boundary, which is one of those things that he hates judging on, because there's nothing in it for him. He draws the line there or he draws the line there. There's no slice of that he gets. So that's the scene. What do we see Aelfwyn do?
I think she waits patiently for this dispute to finally get resolved, and the people, whoever lost out grumbles, and the other person bestows their gratitude on Ulric, and she kind of waits for them to leave, and she gets called up, and she steps up, and she's kind of got her head down, with her cloak kind of drawn a bit, and she says, my Lord Ulric, I come to you with a petition about something that has been stolen. And it's at that point that she straightens up and kind of pushes the cloak back, so that it's, and she knows he's going to recognize her face.
I think I need to have an instant situation specific move here.
Okay.
So I think this is about you rolling. This is about, I think, just how impressive you can be. Because, of course, dramatically, though you have a dirty face, though your clothes are muddy, once you take that hood down, you are the Saxon lady. You are clearly his dead wife. Right.
Yeah, I'm going for the holy shit, I thought my guys killed you and dumped you in the river kind of.
Yeah. And
reaction.
I'm not sure I'm seeing an obvious move for you to apply. So I think I'd like you to roll plus soul.
Okay.
And I think that roll plus soul, and I will make something up on the spot that will be awful, but let's try.
Okay. Oh, geez. So that's 4 on the dice. My soul is 3.
Okay.
So,
so that's a 7, which could have been worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then. So on 7 to 9, choose one of the following. My assumption is you want him to be paralyzed with fear. So one of the options is Ulric is paralyzed with fear. The second is his warriors are paralyzed with fear. And the third is the Saxon gods speak to you. Choose one.
That's a tough one, because I could see this getting interesting in any of these ways. Well, let's say that he's paralyzed with fear, but his guards are not.
Okay. And so he goes white, and just stares at you. And but his guards, on the other hand, react to, "She's come back from the dead," and you hear swords being drawn and spears being picked up. What do you do, Aelfwyn? Because they are going to attack you. What is your intention?
So I think the first thing I got to do is try to yank that sword out of my pack.
Okay, so you're going to defy danger to get that out in a hurry, I think. So roll plus steal.
Okay.
And then I think I may well go to Bodhi and ask about Morwenna.
Okay. So that's a 10.
Well, it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Yep.
So despite the fact that earlier the audience saw you wrapping this tightly in this bundle, so it was completely invisible, at a mere flick of the wrist, it comes free. Morwenna, this seems to be a point at which you might want to do something, but I don't know for certain.
Yes. I think this is the point where I have been guided by my mystic senses to foresee that my old friend Aelfwyn is in danger, and I quietly, you see, while Aelfwyn is struggling with the sword, you see me just step out of the shadows to stand beside Aelfwyn, but in a...
Well, before you tell me the detail, because I think you just triggered I foresaw the need, your playbook move. So let's see how well that move goes before you get much further in your description.
So that's a 7 plus sense, and my sense is 1, so that's an 8.
Okay, so what I think it says is on a 7 to 9, you get there, but can only make the first move on arrival. So so that's it. You step out because you've been loitering the hall. You've been here perhaps for a day and a half. Who knows? Waiting for what the portents told you would happen. So you have stepped up beside Aelfwyn. Aelfwyn, Morwenna has arrived just out of the back of the room. So, Aelfwyn, what do you do now that sword in hand?
I mean, I think I'm probably shocked by Morwenna's appearance the same way that Ulric was shocked by my appearance, because you ran off, some days ago, and I had no idea where you went.
Well, I mean, do you want to play that as or do you want
to act? So I think that because I think Aelfwyn doesn't know how much Morwenna knows about why we're here. Like, clearly she must know something in order to track me down here at Ulric's. But I don't know, Aelfwyn doesn't know if Morwenna knows that we're specifically looking for this horseshoe and all that kind of stuff. I assume Morwenna knows the whole backstory of, like, this is my husband who I failed to kill and all that, because I would have shared that. And so I think the Morwenna's appearance actually is, like, frozen Aelfwyn just a bit, and she's kind of waiting for Morwenna to make the first move here.
Okay, so then Morwenna, what are you going to do with that space as these his warriors close in on the pair of you?
So I think at this point I'd like to find out how much I know from my angry consultation with my god.
That would seem reasonable, wouldn't it? Yes. So the second after love letter, then roll plus so to determine how helpful that guidance proves to be.
That's a 5 plus That is a 7.
So what the love letter says is, on 7 to 9, as well as the 6- result, so we better read that one, mark 1 XP and say how you learn enough of events at the ruined Abbey of St. Anselm to know that the other characters are heading for the settlement ruled by Aelfwyn's husband, Ulric, and roll I foresaw need at any point to determine the circumstances of your reappearance in the scene with the others. So I think we've done that, yeah? But mark 1 XP. On 7 to 9, as well as the 6- results, hold 1 use of look about you, including the option to create a detail that enriches the fiction at any time during the session without rolling, as long as you tell the audience how the guidance you received is relevant to the situation when you spend the hold. That's quite dense and complicated, but does it make sense?
Yeah.
So you have a free hold on look about you to do what you will with here or later on. With all that in mind, what do you do now?
So I think that I am angered by everything that I've seen so far in what's the name of the settlement again? Torksey. I'm angered by everything I've seen so far in Torksey. The things that Aelfwyn saw coming in, how petty this rule is, and
Well, I mean, if I can help you here, you are currently operating under the burden of your wrath. So you are compelled to confront someone about something until there's a consequence for you. So, you know, what are you going to do?
So I turn on the head of the guards, who I presume is obvious, and I get
addressed.
I get right into their face, and I kind of with my staff kind of in front of me as leverage, and berate them for so abusing guest right that they would draw swords and attack someone that hasn't shown them any malice, and I kind of I'm trying to shame them into backing down. I'm trying to kind of push through their superstition with that.
Yeah. So how dare she come in here dead is their view, and you're trying to say, well, you know, hospitality still applies. Okay, roll to convince them. Roll to convince the head of Ulric's guard.
Assume that's a roll with subtle, yes. So that is a 7 again.
I'll be honest with you, I think that's a tough call. They'll do it if you do something for them first or owe them a debt of honor. I think in the heat of the moment, I think you get a pause out of them, but I don't think you're going to convince them, because I'm not sure there's anything you could give them at the moment that would convince them, unless you can think of something that would convince them that they should let an undead former wife of their lord just stand there, when some of them were probably involved in killing her in the first place.
Do I know what the religion is? This a Saxon settlement?
Yeah, it
Saxon
is.
pagan.
The common people are probably Celtic, but yeah, the people in charge will be Saxon.
Can I suggest that I know of a story from Saxon mythology, and I can't come up with anything real here?
I think that's a stretch. I think that's a stretch. Given that
Okay.
you are a Celtic pagan mystic, I think you're good on Celtic myths. I think
Fair enough.
pulling a Saxon one out of your back pocket at this point is probably unlikely. So I think you've bought a pause.
Yes.
Aelfwyn, what do you do in the pause that Morwenna has bought? Because you're just passing pauses about at the moment. So what are you going to do, Aelfwyn?
Okay, so if the pause has stopped the guards from advancing on me, then I'm going to step up to Ulric and say, I'm here for the horseshoe that you looted from the monastery. If you give it to me, I'll be off and go about my business.
My suspicion is that this is going to take a 10 on convince me, to be honest. Because I'm not certain there's anything you have that would convince him. So roll plus subtle. See if
yeah, I mean, we're not making a deal. I'm just intimidating him with my being dead. So okay, subtle is 1. Nine.
Oh, so close.
Oh, so close.
Close.
So close.
And so I think his response is, kill them both. Let me cut to Morwenna. The pause has been used and they are coming at you, Morwenna. What do you do?
I think this is a point where I realize that in my anger I've stepped into a situation without having a good plan for this. And so I
if in doubt, wrath.
So I think I strike out at the head of the guard, not with the intention of fighting, but with the intention of getting myself into a better position where I have a moment to use my power in a way that's effective.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to have you lash out with your power. I mean, don't use power doesn't necessarily involve vast preparation. You can lash out with it if you choose to.
Let's have a look how I want to do this. Let me have a look through the curses. I think this might be time for a curse.
While you're thinking about that, I'm going to cut back to Aelfwyn. Aelfwyn, they're going to come at you. What do you do?
So have I gotten close enough to Ulric at this point that I could, basically get my sword up at him so that I'm directly threatening him?
Oh yeah,
in the hopes that then the guards will. Okay.
Yeah, by all means, you could kill him now.
I mean, kind of feel like if I could try killing him now, it's hard to not take that opportunity, especially since this is our last session with these characters.
Well,
like if we're playing a log campaign, I might want to wait to kill him, but
if not now, when?
Yeah, I mean, this golden opportunity to take care of several different debts at once. So.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because I think at this point, time will slow. And we see you up close with your hand on hilt of sword, up close with Ulric, and time slows and stops. Maybe some spittle when he cried, kill them both. Some spittle just freezes in the air. And a hooded man with one eye appears beside you, and he whispers in your ear and he says, "Is now the time that you will fulfill your pact, Aelfwyn?"
Okay.
So this is Woden actually
Mhm.
calling in one of the debts that you
Okay.
owe. And now, debts, you can do it, or you can refuse it. If you refuse it, the debt will go up.
Mhm. Oh, I'm totally gonna do it.
Okay, and then the spittle's moving again. Woden has gone, and I think I need you to roll to fight. I think, and no, because I think I think it's defy danger again. If you can just screw your courage to the sticking point, you could kill him here and now.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what I'll do. You would think I would know my stats by now. Okay, so steel is 0. So the funny thing is, I actually have a 1 in savage, so I'd do a better roll on fight.
Well,
But
no, do you want to give him an honourable death? Do you want to give him a chance to fight back?
No, I don't think I do. I don't think I do. He didn't
Okay.
give those monks a chance to fight back honorably. So I don't feel like I've got much compunction. I'm not in the mood to, challenge him to a duel and, draw out a little circle and we, the whole bit. I just want to take him down. So
Then defy danger, I think, is the way to do it.
oh, and I got snake eyes.
and so just describe what happens then to make that a failure. What do we see on screen, and then I'll come up with some consequence based on that.
So I think the tone that we've had for the whole confrontation thus far has been of kind of him almost hiding behind his other warriors, sicking them on people and that kind of stuff. And I think that was a deliberate act on his part that even I fell for, even though I should know better, because the reason he's king is because he's an extremely skilled warrior. He has killed more people than all of his men put together on the battlefield over his life. And so, I go in, it's going to be this big dramatic, and stab him right through the neck with this sword. And he almost just casually pulls out, a dagger that he's got on his belt and knocks the sword out of my hand, and stands up. And, once he's standing and his big furry fancy cloak that he wears to look regal kind of falls away, and you can tell, oh wait, this guy is actually a super badass. And fighting wise, I'm pretty screwed.
Yeah, oh, that's lovely. Yeah, because that leads you to be disarmed, and he has a dagger. More of that dagger perhaps later. Okay, so he's going to come at you with his dagger. You are disarmed. Cut to Morwenna.
So while this is going on, I fueled by my rage, call up my power, and I strike the floor with my staff, and there is a thunderclap, and it's not exactly something that is listed in the effects for use power, but can I try just to kind of scatter the guards, to push them back with force? And I am reckless to the consequences at this point. It may just kind of knock a couple of them off their feet. It may push someone into a fire. I'm just kind of letting loose here.
Okay, let's see how well it goes, and we'll judge the result on that basis.
So that is an 11.
So on an 11, it goes perfectly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the guards on that side of the warriors to be kind of scattered backwards. And so I'm going to give you a couple of actions before they come back at you. But Aelfwyn, that doesn't stop because it would be dramatically inappropriate for it to stop the badass Ulric coming at you. He throws himself at you with the clear intention of killing you. So what are you going to use to defend yourself?
Is there a runaway move that I can do?
There is
I feel like
danger. There is defy danger.
I might have to.
You could defy danger to get away and try to scrabble after your sword.
Yeah, I think her plan now that killing Ulric didn't quite work is so actually no, I think she's gonna not try to scramble for the sword because that might take too long. Because it's not necessarily in a place where it can easily be grabbed. I think what she's gonna try to do is make a break for the treasure room.
Okay. Now I will remind you that Woden is expecting you to kill Ulric. So if you don't want that debt to go back up,
that's true.
Ulric needs to end up dead. Yeah, because as is your want, you just made a deal with the devil again.
Right.
So bear that one in mind. I don't have a problem, but just that is a consequence down the road if Ulric survives this.
I mean, in some ways, it kind of fits, right? She's already chickened out on killing him once. So it's kind of appropriate, I think, that she chickens out on killing him again. She's like, okay, shoot, no killing. I'm going to try to get the horseshoe, take care of that problem, maybe kill him later.
Okay. And so defy
the debt goes up.
Your debt. Well, let's because you may end up killing him before the end of this scene.
Okay.
But if he's not dead when you leave Torksey, that debt will go up.
Okay.
Yeah. And Woden's going to be really pissed off, I have to tell you. So defy danger to get past Ulric to your old sleeping chamber at the back of the hall and the little cubby hole off that where he has a couple of chests with all his most valuable possessions in. Okay? It can't go worse than the previous one, can it?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Okay, got a 7.
Okay, so on 7, I think you can get there, but he's going to be right behind you is the cost.
Okay. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes sense to have, he's chasing me in there to continue confronting me. Because
you're his dead wife. This can't end well. So you charge through the kind of curtain that curtains off his sleeping place at the back, and head for the chests. Yeah. And we know he's behind you. Morwenna, what do you do with the couple of actions that you've bought?
So I'm imagining that the Ulric's guard is quite large. That as a kind of later middle-aged woman, I don't have much of a chance of defeating them in open combat. So I'm kind of regaining some clarity from my rage because I marked wearied as part of that because I felt it was dramatically inappropriate to ask Brigit for aid at this point, given my anger with her. So I think at this point I see rapidly diminishing options, and so I look around for something to set on fire.
There's plenty. This is a wooden structure with a thatched roof. So, take your pick. But how are you going to do it?
I think I I think how is the place lit? Is there pardon?
Torches.
Yes.
And a fire pit in the middle of the hall.
Can I grasp a torch and throw it into the thatch? I'm attempting to set the roof on fire.
That again, in the absence of anything else, I'm going to go with defy danger to it's the default. Is it difficult? Yes. Can I do it? Try. So let's see.
That is a either a 12. That is a 13.
That's quite something, isn't it? So not only does it go up, but it lodges in one of the rafters, and the thatch takes fire very swiftly. So in that space, I think you now have a burning thatch. Yeah. And I think given that roll was so good, that's not going to be puttable outable anytime soon. Yeah. And the guard is beginning to gather itself. Let me cut back to Aelfwyn. Aelfwyn, you get to there's a large chest, and that's where he keeps the things he values. You've probably got time to open it and scrabble for something before he's in the room behind you.
Yeah, so I think in addition to throwing open the chest to look for the horseshoe, I think I'm also looking around to see, is there anything in here that I could use as a weapon to defend myself? Because, I think I probably have like a little belt knife or something, but it's not sufficient to fight like a substantial dagger that he's got. And for all I know, he may have grabbed a better weapon off of one of his guards on the way in and whatever. So I need, I'm looking for something else, even if it's not a weapon, but something I can use to defend myself when he catches up to me.
What do you think of it being a Christian cross that he looted from the Abbey?
I like that. I think symbolically appropriate.
Okay.
So like a big jeweled cross thing.
Exactly. A heavy, whap. Yeah. So, that implies that you're going to turn and face him rather than just carry on scrabbling. Yeah,
because I'm envisioning that he's close enough to me that like if I sit there and go through the chest, like he's just going to come up and like stab me again. And I have to go through him to get out of here. There's not, you don't install a back door on your treasure chamber.
No, there is no way out of this little alcove other than back the way.
Yeah, so I got to face him down somehow. But I bought myself a little time by running in here and getting away from his other guards. So it's now, at least it's purely one-on-one with him.
I think it's roll to fight, isn't it?
Yep. Okay. So that's an 11.
No, that was a good time to pull that one out of the box.
Yeah,
so on 7+, you can either exchange harm or choose one of the effects from the list, and then on 10+, you can choose another effect.
Okay. Advantage. So I think I'll inflict a harm on him and force your foe to where you want them.
Okay.
So I think I want to kind of force him into a corner away from the door so that I have a clear path to get out once I can grab the horseshoe.
So you force him back. You inflict 1 point of harm on him, but you choose to avoid taking any. Am I right? Are you exchanging harm or inflicting? Because there's an inflict as one of the options.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Okay, so because my understanding was exchange, so I get to exchange harm and do one of the options.
For 7
And
plus, you can exchange harm or do one of the actions.
Right.
And on a 10 plus, you can have a second action. If you chose an action the first time. You see what I mean?
Oh, okay. So I don't have to. Okay, sorry, I was misreading the thing. So I choose 2 from the list, basically.
If you want to,
because I got the
or
10.
1 from the list and exchange harm.
Okay.
Yeah?
But I could choose 2 and have one of them be inflict 1 harm.
You could.
Even if you avoided exchanging harm.
Yes.
Okay.
So you inflict 1 on Ulric. He doesn't get close to you. I think we see you kind of. He's coming behind you. The audience sees him coming behind you, and you turn around and whap him with this cross, and he staggers back across the bedchamber. Not a big room, but he's over there. You've bought a bit of time. Back to Morwenna. The thatch is taking off quite nicely, Morwenna, and some of the guards have left the hall to try and get people to start, ferrying water to put it out. But that still leaves you with a handful of them, I'd have thought. What do you do?
I think I'm still in extremis. I'm going to lean on my power again. And I want to, at this point, do an aspect of summon a creature into a place, and I just want to summon a facsimile of Ulric's voice from out of the smoke, and I want to summon him shouting, forget forget both of them, a boon to whoever saves my hall.
Fine, that works for me. So yeah, that's an inventive use of summon. I'm prepared to go with it. Do that thing.
That is 5, 6, 7, 8. That is a 10.
So on a 10, that happens perfectly, and I think that you could have used banish them, because I think immediately they ignore you and they leave, intending to start firefighting arrangements. That will last for this scene. So you have cleared the hall of his warriors. Meanwhile, in the bedchamber, Aelfwyn, you bought some time. What do you do with the time? Because he's staggered back. You can do something.
Yeah, so I'll use that time to. I think I want to just dump the chest out so that I can easily find the horseshoe in it.
And I think that's probably I'm overusing this move, but I can't think of any other way to come at this other than defy danger to get some sense of how long this takes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I'm bored with defy danger. There is a horseshoe that has been beaten. So it's clearly still a horseshoe, but the blunt ends have been heated and beaten to points. So it's a kind of punch dagger, punch blade, yeah? And there's the only thing that looks vaguely horseshoe shaped. And you have that in hand when he comes at you again.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'm probably. I've still got the cross as like a, deflecting weapon, but I've got the horseshoe ready to go. So I guess I'm gonna fight.
I think Woden is expecting it of you.
Yep, so that's plus my savage, which is 1. So that's an 8.
So on an 8, you either exchange harm or choose one of the things from that first bulleted list.
Okay, so this is where I have to decide, do I want to just get away with the horseshoe, or do I want to try to finish him off here? right? Because I'm guessing if I choose the force your foe to where you want them option again, that might give me clearance to make a run for it.
Indeed.
But then I'm not doing any more harm to him. And so at this point, I can probably tell that the other room is on fire, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've heard all the commotion and can smell the smoke.
And I think you're beginning to see smoke because we've created enough smoke for them to think that he's giving commands.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to stand and fight him because he's just got the dagger right now.
He does.
So it's a little more evenly matched. And so I think I'll throw out some one-liner about how we've lit his funeral pyre, and I will inflict a harm. So just as sort of a mechanical question.
Yeah.
What's the advantage to exchanging harm as established as opposed to picking the inflict one harm option on the list?
If you go for the one on the list, you do a harm on him. He doesn't get to do any on you. If you exchange harm, then you can do whatever damage the weapon you have does. So
okay, so that might inflict more harm.
Exactly. And I think in the circumstances of cross and punch dagger, I think I see you doing at least 2 points of harm every time you exchange. His dagger will do 1 point of harm.
Okay. Well, then why don't given that I'll exchange harm.
Fine. So you will take 1 point of harm. So mark whichever box is top left of wearied, wounded, dying.
Yep.
And he will take 2, which is not yet enough to kill him. So you're going to have to do it again unless something else happens. I don't think it's appropriate for me to ask if Morwenna comes to your rescue, because I feel this ought to be Aelfwyn and Ulric. Yeah. So Morwenna, what are you doing outside as the fire takes hold that isn't coming to Aelfwyn's aid? Unless Aelfwyn calls. I shouldn't take that out of your hand, Stentor. I'm sorry.
No, I think you're exactly right. That this is her thing to do. You know, she made this deal with her gods. You know, Morwenna is, you know, a companion, but doesn't even serve the gods that she is dealing with here. So she's not going to call.
No, this has to be personal. So Morwenna, what are you doing other than that?
So at this point, I'd like to know more about my motivation for being here beyond helping an old friend. So I'd like to use my hold on look about you to
and of course
ask.
You can tell me. You can add a detail to the fiction at this point. Or you can ask me. I mean, I'm not sure I know what your motivation is.
Well, I'm going to narrow it down, and then maybe we can flesh it out together, because I don't have all the answers. But how is the Horseshoe of St. George unexpectedly connected to the battle between the two, to the kind of struggle between the two sides of the old gods, the light old gods and the dark old gods?
Yeah, because though the Christians think it's the Horseshoe of St. George, it's actually from Brigit's chariot. Does that work for you?
That works for me.
Okay.
That works for me. And I think I know that this is Aelfwyn's fight, but I want to do something that will give us both a chance to escape at the end of this. So I'm trying to think of what would increase chances of escape here. Maybe what I do is I take... I'm an experienced traveller, so I imagine I have what you would normally have as a traveller in my pack, and I'd imagine that I know where everything is because I've been on the road for years and years. And so I take some, while everyone is distracted trying to fight the fire, I take some cordage, some string or thin rope from my pack, and I quickly knot it onto the door frame and string it out to the treasure room, so that we have when Aelfwyn comes out, we have a line to follow if there's too much smoke to let us see at that point.
That's fine. That's fine. That will allow you to escape through the front of the hall without having to worry about the smoke. Aelfwyn, what do you do?
I think, and I apologize for the loud truck outside right now, if you can hear that. I think I need to fight him again. That I feel like at this point, only one of us is going to walk out of here alive.
And I think you're beginning to see the fear in his face, because you are beating him with the cross and stabbing at him with this item that he looted. So yeah, go for it.
Okay, it's an 8.
So exchange harm will do more harm on him, or you can choose one thing from the bulleted list.
Yeah, it always seems boring to pick the just like, run out his hit points thing, but deflecting his blows and stuff doesn't necessarily matter because I'm undead. Forcing him to where I want him, like I just want him to stay here so that I can kill him. There's no other foes to draw to me, so yeah, I guess I'll just exchange harm again.
Well, I just want to put this in this fight. I think you've probably come out of the bedchamber, because that will put you conveniently near this kind of line out.
Yeah,
and maybe you're fighting around the fire pit.
Okay. Yeah, if we're... Then I want to... Yeah, so then where I want to put him is in danger of falling into the fire.
Let's cut to the chase. Let's have you force him into the fire.
Okay. Force him right into the fire, sure.
Because you've already referred to this as his funeral pyre.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for that. As you say, it's a bit tedious working down the hit points kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a much more dramatic way to finish off Ulric.
Okay, yeah.
And so we see him fall into it and begin to burn. Yeah?
Yep.
And that leaves you with an option to leave the hall, because I think Woden is satisfied. We are certain now he is flaming, and we probably see him try to clamber up as this flaming creature fall to his knees and fall flat on his face, burning.
Yeah.
Because we all know he was going to die.
Yeah. And so then I think once I see that he is clearly going to actually die, like it's obvious that he's not coming back from this, and he's not going to be able to do anything else to me, I think I kind of crash down from all the adrenaline. And I can, squinting through the smoke, I see the line that Morwenna left and, comes stumbling out of the hall. And I've got the horseshoe, and I think I'm still carrying the cross because it's like silver and crusted with jewels, and it'll be a good down payment on my obligations to the monastery. Assuming, I mean, the big question here though is, you know, I was brought back to life to finish off Ulric. Is Woden going to let me stick around long enough to pay off debts to other gods?
Let's play to find out.
Yeah, so that's the big question on my plate right now as I come stumbling out of the burning hall with the cross and the horseshoe.
And so I think, yeah, we cut to outside. The doors of the double doors of the hall are open. Chains of people kind of throwing water on the roof. And out of the smoke, both of you stumble into the outside. I'll ask Morwenna, because I think you're probably in a state to make a more rational decision at the moment about what you do. There you are back together. What do you do, Morwenna?
So, first of all, I want to say that I think as a narratively appropriate wounding for my previous use of magic, I am unable to speak above a hoarse whisper until I treat my voice, because my voice, throwing my voice out, it hasn't all come back. And so I say in this hoarse whisper, you have the horseshoe good, we must leave now. And I kind of I'm going to say that, can I have scouted out a surreptitious way to leave if there was an appropriate distraction beforehand in my day and a half of being there?
Let's have you roll to look about you to see whether just how effective that was. So roll plus sense.
That's a 7.
So on a 7, you can ask me one question that says about the locational situation, someone or something in the scene, blah, blah, blah. Or you could choose to add a detail. Oh, there's the hole in the stockade.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I grab. Verbal instructions aren't going to be much good at this point because I can barely speak. So I simply grab Aelfwyn by the sleeve and kind of quickly, but without running, because running draws attention. Kind of
there are people running everywhere. There's chaos on the wall.
So I grab. I grab a bucket and make as if I'm running towards a source of water, and then throw the bucket aside and kind of slip out of this hole in the stockade with Aelfwyn.
And I think, given that I've run 30 minutes over my normal break time, I think that is an appropriate time for me to say, and we see you heading up a slope towards a wood with the hall of Ulric burning in the background. Shall we take a break until, shall we say, 22 the hour?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
See you then.
See you.
I was pleased with that love letter. That worked very well. Thanks for indulging me.
Oh, of course. No, it was. It's really useful to have that kind of context and specificity to it. So thank you.
No, I'll wait until Stender comes back before I ask that question.
All right.
I was about to ask a question. So we've seen you head off, having got what you came for, and I've got a couple of thoughts in my mind for what happens next. But I want to just check in with you. So far, we've not seen much interaction between these two characters. So I don't know if you want to, spend some time on that. And the longer term question, there are two questions, at least two questions in my mind at the moment that I want you to be mulling over as well. Is one, it is now this question of Aelfwyn and whether she's done enough to rest. Her debt has gone down from 2 to 1, so I think ultimately the choice will be hers. She still owes them a debt. What I'm thinking is at some point I can offer Aelfwyn some kind of choice near the end of this session as to whether she does want to rest, but then she'll have to do something for Woden again to reduce that debt to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Till that's 0, I don't think she can rest. So that's in my mind.
Okay.
And I'm also wondering about we've got an apparently Christian relic, which we now know in the fiction is actually a pagan relic that probably the church stole.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a valuable cross, and I'm not certain how that plays into, do you want to go and kill a demon or not? Or do you have different fish to fry now? That's what I'm wondering.
So my thought is, I'll just assume that as we're running, that Morwenna explains the whole backstory on the horseshoe, so that we don't have to roleplay that all out. So if I'm recalling correctly, I think I promised to help the monks rebuild the monastery, but I don't think I specifically promised to give them the horseshoe back.
You didn't, and the fact you have the cross, this valuable cross.
Yeah, so I feel like the cross is like I said, a good down payment on reestablishing the monastery. So, I'm just going to need to take that over to, and I'm forgetting the name of the monk that we met that was still living there.
Father Ambrose, I think.
Father Ambrose. Yeah, so I just got to deliver that to him. And there's not a big time limit on that. So that's kind of a lower priority. I feel like that feels to me like, if I'm envisioning this as a story, that feels to me like an epilogue thing to do. Just to show up at the monastery and hand the cross over to Father Ambrose, because I've done the big dramatic thing of getting it.
Fine. That just helps me know where you want to go.
Yeah, so I feel like the thing to do now, we've gone through all this trouble to get this horseshoe, is to go kill this demon.
And the same question, I suppose, Bodhi, about Morwenna's motivation now. Aelfwyn has the horseshoe, and clearly wants to finish this job that you set out to do with respect to the demon. No one has yet entirely tied down where that demon is. In episode 2, certainly the suggestion was from the priest who was with you, Kaganos, that it would need to be somebody who was either weak-willed and or desperate for power. And the obvious suggestion was the prefect, or the head of his guard. So those were the two candidates, but no one has tied down exactly whether they are now possessed by the demon. So I just want to check in terms of where Morwenna sees this story going. This is a mid-session opportunity to express a wish.
So I would suggest that maybe this is part of something larger. Maybe this demon, wherever it is now, maybe I have an inkling, maybe not all the details, because I don't think I rolled well enough on my love letter, but maybe I have an inkling that this is the start of an more overt move by the dark forces and the old gods to kind of start exerting power in the mortal world. And maybe I'm even getting an inkling that we've been played for fools in casting out the demon from the old man, because that was exactly where the demon wanted to go in order to gain power.
So this does seem to involve a return to Danum, I think, is what I'm hearing. Okay. Do you want to have a scene together where we get a sense any more about these characters, or are you prepared to just proceed, cut to Danum?
I quite like the sound of a short scene together. I don't know how
Sure.
you feel.
That's fine with me, yeah.
Go for it, folks.
So I think that we've built a fire and we're well, I'm preparing food. I don't know whether you need to eat Aelfwyn.
Yeah, I think I still need to do all the normal mortal things. It's just that, like, if I get to the point of where I would normally die, I get kind of kicked back. But it's not like I'm just like a spirit being or something. So I do still need to eat, and if I don't eat, I'd at minimum like run out of energy and like lose all my weight and all that kind of stuff. Like, so I still eat normally.
Yeah, so imagine this being a scene around the fire with food prepared, and I've prepared some. I'm thinking, are you injured at all?
Well, I was going to ask whether at some point Aelfwyn should roll the already dead move. When you have taken harm, then at the end of the scene, roll plus steel to see how that self-healing goes on.
Okay,
and that might give.
Why don't we do that? Okay. Although, so the text of Already Dead talks about clearing the dying boxes, and I only took one harm in that whole fight.
Remarkably, you did really well, and erased 2 conditions. I think I need you to roll it, because if you roll really badly, clear dying, but the weeping scars become a suspicious feature of your appearance. So I think I need to know if there's a consequence.
Okay. That works. Okay. It's with steel, which is 0. Okay. And I got a 10.
Then you can clear 2 boxes, even if you only have one marked.
Yep.
The intention of that is to make sure that you can't die, unless you choose to, really. Aelfwyn is looking pretty good, I have to say, given what she's been through. So there you go, Morwenna, go from there.
So I'm preparing a draft of healing herbs for my throat, and I guess I'm muttering under my breath about the fickleness of gods, and I think that Aelfwyn can hear me and can get a sense of what I'm muttering as I was frustrated by my lack of voice at the moment.
Right. Yeah, and I think if you're complaining about the fickleness of gods, I think that that's something that Aelfwyn can now really relate to in a much more direct way. And it's because, our two characters hadn't bonded so much before because we seemed to be coming from different worlds and so forth. But, this is... Aelfwyn says whatever the Anglo-Saxon equivalent of big mood is as you're saying that, because, and because I'm assuming when Woden appeared, that was just to me. That wasn't, nobody else saw that.
Yeah, that frozen moment in time, yeah.
Yeah.
What I was envisaging is I got a sense of some of that energy from the appearance of Woden, and that was how I was able to kind of do such a dramatic kind of throwing back of people because of that energy in the space, but I'm not aware of the specifics.
Yeah, and I think I also, I say that, I tell you that Woden appeared to me, and that this was the deed that I was sent back to finish when I was killed and brought back. And I thought for a while there that would be it, that as soon as Ulric was dead, I would get taken off to Valhalla or whatever equivalent in Saxon mythology is, and that would be that. But apparently there's still more that I need to do for Woden, or maybe I'm now just normal alive. It's not totally clear to me, because gods are a little unscrutable. They didn't really give me a blueprint for how this all is supposed to work.
I suspect that we've just become part of something larger, which I don't, from my tone of voice, I clearly don't regard as a good thing. It's like we're mixed up in this whole mess now, and that's so that carries on from my grumbling. And I wonder if now is a good point to establish, because I don't think we established on character creation how we're old friends. That's in I owe Aelfwyn a debt, as we're old friends.
I don't remember the detail of that.
I think we left it to establish in play. So, do you have any ideas?
How far back does that friendship go then, Aelfwyn? Let's start with that.
Right. So I'm trying to think. So are you originally from maybe the area? So, I moved to Ulric's, realm when I married him. So I grew up in a different Saxon kingdom. So would that maybe be where you were from as well? And so we knew each other before, and then kind of lost touch when I got married to Ulric.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Now we know that Morwenna is in her middle years. Did we ever quite establish whether Aelfwyn was a young woman or a middle-aged woman?
So I would be fine if the age gap, and you can tell me if this sounds good to you, if the age gap was just enough that maybe you got hired to help take care of me when I was a child.
Yep.
And so the Saxon rulers contracted out this Celtic woman to, look after this kid.
that then young woman, or maybe even teen, to help. Oh, right. So this goes back quite a way then. That's interesting. Okay.
So
is there a kind of is there any kind of mentor mentee thing going on here, or did the social position mean that could never be?
I'm seeing this as primarily a bond of affection, at least on my part. And it feeds into my anger at the machinations of the gods that someone I remember as a sweet child has been so entangled in all of this that they've been brought back as a revenant and now not allowed to leave, even though they fulfilled their debt. And I'm just, I guess.
Yeah, and I wonder if you even maybe like, as part of like, you know, the wisdom you'd bestowed on me, like warned me not to get tangled up in these kind of things. Like, you know, don't make deals with the gods or the fairy people or any of those kind of things. It's just going to make your life a mess. And now here we're sitting and like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, that's made for a flashback, isn't it? Of the young child, or perhaps being sent off to get married. I don't know. Just, you know, now you be careful.
Yeah, I like that. That was like your last advice to me before I left in like the wedding procession to Ulric's. And yeah, because you came by to see me off, because by that time I was old enough I didn't need a caretaker, you know, for a little while. But you showed up to give me your last piece of advice, and here we've gone. We've both totally blown it.
Yeah,
I mean that seems really neat to me.
Yeah,
and gives you a bit of kind of personal investiture in one another for what is to come. So what is to come? I think cut to Danum, which was the last time you saw the demon. And how are you going to decide where the demon is and what you're going to do? Sorry, I've just thought you should clear Wearied, because Wearied just recovers with rest. And having bound up your wounds, you can clear the wounded track as well, or one condition from the wounded.
Are you happy with me saying that I marked? By the rules, I should have marked 2 wounded for both my uses of power.
Right. Well, one of them should still be there.
One of them should still be there. I need to think of how. If it becomes fictionally important, I'll think of how I was wounded by the first thing. So yes. So I think that now I'm acting in accordance with Brigit's designs, because I still believe in the larger cause of this, even though I'm currently angry with Brigit. I think I can look into the mind of the monster, where I seek out or look into the mind of a monster, roll plus soul, and on plus 10 plus hold 2 to ask questions, on 7 to 9 hold 1. So
go for it.
6, 7, 8. So that's 8. So I think I'm doing this by scrying. I have a dark-colored shallow bowl from my packer. We're just outside Danum, and I'm in a small copse, say. and I've poured water into this bowl and I'm murmuring incantations over it. And what I'm looking for is the water to clear the kind and show the face of the person in which the demon currently resides, and how clear that image is, and how much I can tell from that, I'll leave up to you.
Well, yeah. So I mean, the questions are: where are they now? What are they now planning to do? Who or what are they going to attack next? What do they regard as the biggest threat? How can their attention be attracted? Now, the closest I can get to is where are they now?
Yeah.
And I think what you will get is a view of the hall that you recognize as the prefect's hall. And as your gaze, as the gaze of the scrying bowl moves around the hall, it settles on it's looking at Martulio, the head of the leader of his warband. Okay.
So at this point, I suspect, but I'm not sure, that that Martulio is where the demon has taken up residence, and I let Aelfwyn know that.
But it seems they are in the prefect's hall.
Yes. Martulio. If only Gunnar hadn't run off. But okay, I mean, if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do.
So the question then becomes how you do it.
I wonder if the demon's designs are already becoming manifest. If we can talk to someone about changes that have happened in Danum, like I think we need to find someone who has access to the hall, but is low status enough that they would talk to travelers just coming off the road.
That would seem reasonable to me. So, unless you tell me differently, I'm going to have cut to you entering because I think you got out of Danum, so you know your way about Danum, both of you. So I'm just going to cut to you, wandering, along the streets of the main street of Danum, and looking for somebody.
I would suggest that we might head for a mead hall or somewhere, a similar drinking establishment, because that's a good place for finding information.
There is almost certainly an alewife who brews for the hall and for travellers to wet their whistle. And so let's have you seated at a bench in a lean-to beside a cottage, where you're sipping, weak ale, and it sounds like you're looking about you to find out some stuff. So, Morwenna, do you want to look about you?
Sure.
Roll plus sense.
7.
So you can ask me a question about the location or situation, someone or something in the scene, what might have happened or might happen here, or you can choose to add a detail or ask me to do so.
So I want to ask what has changed? What stands out compared to the time that we were there before?
The church has been burned down.
I think I turn to the person that served us, and I just ask as not curious, because showing too much curiosity is dangerous, but just as a kind of point of conversation, like the kind of ask what happened to the church, and kind of leading question.
Oh, it burned down several, a week ago, and that would be, you think, probably a day or two after you left Danum. I think a week or so has passed. Maybe more than that, actually. So let's make it 2 weeks. But you tie it down to shortly after you left Danum. Yes, there was a fire in the night. The priest couldn't get out and was burned. Aelfwyn, are you doing anything while you're sat at this table?
Because I think Morwenna's kind of the one that's taking the investigative lead here, since she's got more insight into this particular demon. So I think I'm just kind of listening for any useful tidbits from the people around us that might help us pinpoint, confirm the suspicion that Martulio is where the demon has gone, or
Okay. Then I think that probably look about you works for you as well. So roll plus sense.
Yep. Okay. Get rid of all the old dice. I got a 4 total.
I think that you will hear perhaps two locals just talking, within earshot, and one of them saying, "That Martulio, he's worse than ever. He's a beast of a man. Nothing is beneath him anymore."
Okay. I mean, that confirms all my suspicions. So
and there is Martulio walking down the street, perhaps in search of some ale. What do you do, Aelfwyn?
So I'll grab Morwenna's sleeve and kind of point that out as subtly as I can.
I suppose my key question is, are you going to wait here until he arrives, or are you going to go?
My inclination is that, fighting him in the alehouse will get a lot more messy than trying to confront him in the street, where there's more space and fewer people tripping over us and getting confused about what's going on and taking sides rashly.
I have an idea that I whisper to you that I have a plan, and I turn conspiratorially to, I don't know whether it's the alewife who served us or the alewife's daughter or whatever, but I turn to the person who served us and leave them a coin enough for a good night's drinking, and say that we've come to trade, and last time Martulio put in a good word. Make sure he has a good night, but don't just say that it's from a friend. And I'm banking on kind of Martulio's ego being stoked by this, as someone willing to, a stranger from the town willing to buy him a night of drinking. And then I encouraged Aelfwyn, if you're happy to kind of slip away quietly and watch from the shadows.
Sure.
Okay, so let's assume then that it is getting on to dusk, because that would be convenient, wouldn't it? Dramatically appropriate. And he sits there in there's, let's say the moon is relatively full. So the moon is rising, big moon. And he's sitting there, and he's been joined by some of the warriors, some of the Prefect's warriors, because it appears that there's a free night's drinking. But I think that the complication is that he takes that in ale to go back to the hall with. So I think we probably see him and his men carrying a couple of buckets of ale back towards the hall, unless you want to intervene. Aelfwyn?
I'm kind of following Morwenna's lead here because she seems to have the plan.
Yeah, it's worked so far, and you trust her.
And on a meta level, I want to kind of I had my big confrontation, so I want to let you, be the star of that one.
So Morwenna, what are you going to do? Follow them back, or intervene, or
where would where the head of a town's guard sleeps, would that be common knowledge?
Oh, in the hall. Anybody who's part of the inverted court will sleep in the hall.
Mm-hmm. My plan's been slightly disrupted here, because my plan was to get Martulio drunk and then accost him on the way back to the hall. So I'm weighing up here between trying to get Martulio alone in some way now, or watching and waiting and hoping that Martulio... What I am going to say is that if Martulio's got a night of drinking ahead of him, at some point he's going to have to answer a call of nature. So
that works. So you just stake out the hall and wait for him to come out for a piss, because there will be a bucket just by the door of the hall where everyone comes and pees, because then that's used by the dyers. You can stake that out from a shadow. It has to be in the shadow of the burnt out church, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're observing the hall, and I've said it's a full moon, good light. Out comes Martulio, slightly the worse for wear, and does his trews, drops them, and starts to wee in the bucket.
I am going to say that I have a garrote prepared.
Now, let's be clear. Your weapons are what they are. So so you can have a piece of string, you can have some rope.
A rope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that... It's something that I'm intending to use to restrain and surprise. So...
Okay. So I think it's defy danger to get behind him and throw the loop around his neck, because his hands are occupied. So that's not a problem.
Look at that.
Aelfwyn, what are you going to do when Morwenna kind of, goes across this 10, 20 paces to throw a garrote around his neck?
So my sense of how the plan would work then is, because we can't just. Well, I guess the question is, what is the role of the horseshoe in all this, right? Because it's not just, okay, we kill him and demon's taken care of. So I'm envisioning then maybe if Morwenna is going to kind of immobilize him this way, then I'll be there with the horseshoe to apply that to him with the idea that will take care of the demon. Does that sound good, or were you planning something else?
I think that's what I was planning. I wonder if the horseshoe would react to the presence of a demon, so wouldn't necessarily be used as a knife, but be used more. I'm aware that we have a line at torture by PCs, so I don't want to do something that would be kind of torturous to Martulio, but would there be some effect of pressing the horseshoe onto Martulio's skin, and would that reveal whether the demon was present?
Just to unwrap any of this from previous fiction, we know that Keganos the priest concluded that he couldn't banish the demon alone. He needed more spiritual oomph. And that's where the horseshoe was supposed to come in, to give Keganos the spiritual strength to do a full banish. Now, we now know that actually it's not a Christian artifact at all. But that's where the fiction got to in the previous episodes. So you can work with that any which way you like.
So where I am at the moment is I am not sure. I'm not sure that the demon is in Martulio. I've got a good hunch, but I'm not sure. And I'm not willing to kill someone as a demon, even if they're a bad person, without being sure. So I'm staking this action on Brigit giving a sign through the horseshoe from her chariot.
So what you're hoping is that there'll be some reaction.
Yes.
To the okay. So defy danger to get across there and just kind of get him.
So that's I got an 8 on that.
Okay. So hard choice here. You can get the loop around his throat, but at that point, someone else comes out of the hall, or you can't. What's your choice? Maybe you see the door just edging, and you're about, so you need to make a choice.
I think this feels like a time to escalate rather than back down, so I go for it.
Fine. So you have got Martulio with this rope around his neck. Aelfwyn, another warrior comes out of the hall. What do?
And because I think I don't have my sword anymore because that got lost. I don't think I took the time to pick that up from
in all that smoke. I think it entirely left your mind.
Ulric's Hall, yeah.
Dramatically appropriate as well. You have a heavy cross.
Yeah, but that cross is not the greatest weapon, I don't think. If I'm not just like grabbing it because it's there. So yeah, I think I've got the horseshoe in one hand and my just little knife in the other hand. And so I'm thinking about just the geometry of where people are at this point, because I need to use the horseshoe on Martulio.
Well, look.
So I can't just.
So there's the double doors to the hall. One of the doors is ajar. Martulio is just to one side in the shadow of the eaves, and Morwenna has got him. You have to be close to that in order to use it on him, and that's the point at which somebody else comes out of the hall.
So I think actually what I want to do then is just try to use the horseshoe on Martulio as quick as I can, in the hopes of doing it before we get interrupted by this newcomer, and possibly if it's something dramatic, right? Like we see the demon like leave his body and go, "I'm being banished," or whatever, that will, stun this new guy and make it clear what we're doing and so forth. So I think I want to just try to really quickly get the horseshoe on him.
Okay, and I'm not going to make you roll for that. I think that's perfectly fine. So what begone, foul creature of the night, or press it into his face? What do we see?
I think rather than his face, I think I go for his chest, just because it's a bigger and easier target. Because I imagine his head's thrashing around as he's being choked.
Fine. So you
think I'm just going to go
on his
right
chest.
on his chest. Yeah.
Okay. And I have to say, it doesn't appear to have any effect. And then behind you, because you've turned to do this, you hear the voice of the prefect saying, "What's here?" I think, given that Morwenna is tied up strangling Martulio, I'm left to Aelfwyn to tell me what she does.
Okay, so no effect on Martulio from the horseshoe. I'm glad I'm not in this situation where I'd be dead already. Trying to think of what to do.
I always think, if in doubt, do the cool thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing I do then is to jump back, and I've got the horseshoe, and say to Morwenna, it's not him.
What do you do, Morwenna?
I think about it. Let's see.
And there's a flash of insight, Morwenna, in that, in the mind of the monster, what you saw was the view from the monster's point of view.
So if I think back, who didn't I see in that scene?
The prefect.
I think at this point I realized this, a flash of inspiration, and my immediate thought is I just want to get Martulio out of the way. So I think I attempt to throw Martulio backwards, tripping him over my leg, because I've clearly blown any chance of bringing him on side at this point. So just get him out of the way.
Roll plus savage to see whether you can put him where you want him to be.
5, 6, 7, 8, and a 7.
So on a 7, you can either exchange harm, or you can choose one of the bullets. And one of the bullets is force your foe to where you want them.
So I want them on the ground, stunned from being half choked and in no immediate position to offer resistance.
I think you bought some time. Aelfwyn, do you spin to see the prefect or what?
Yeah, I think that's what I got to do.
And he cowers from you.
So I am going to lunge at him with because I'm holding the horseshoe up and he's cowering from me. So I'm going to lunge at him with it and see if I can at least get a hit in on him with the horseshoe.
So I think it's roll to fight. So roll plus savage.
See if I'm any better at fighting him than my first swat at Ulric. Okay, that is a 10.
Oh, well then on a 10, you can exchange harm. But to be honest, because he's cowering from you, I'm not gonna force you to take any harm from that. Mm-hmm. So you could do 2 points of harm on him and choose a bullet point, or you can choose 2 bullet points.
Okay. So I think I want to choose force your foe to where you want them.
And where is that?
Which is sort of on the ground.
He stumbles back onto the ground, resting on his elbow. Maybe.
Yeah. And so I guess the question then is for Morwenna, is there something that you'd like to do that I could give you that advantage that would help you out? Because I'm thinking if our big goal here is the exorcism, I'm not so much worried about exactly how many points of harm I'd necessarily do to him. But so if you've got something planned you'd like to do to him now that we've pinpointed him as our target, I'm happy to take the one to give you that advantage.
So I think at this point, I roll with advantage on look about me because I'm looking into the other world. Actually, no, that would be double advantage. That wouldn't work. Well, I suppose narratively it works fine.
No, but I think what Aelfwyn has done is offered you a mechanical advantage. So I think if you're going to do something, it ought to use that advantage.
Yeah. So I want to see how I might drive this demon forth.
Well, I mean, I don't think you need to roll to look about you there. You have your use power. Mm-hmm. You know that use power can banish a creature spirit curse from a person, object, place for the rest of this scene. And what we know from Keganos was that he could only do it for a scene because he didn't have enough spiritual muscle.
Mm-hmm. So if I want to give you the choice here, Aelfwyn, because I don't want to take your agency in this way. But if I call for the horseshoe, would you throw it to me?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So I call for that and stick my hand up and try and catch this horseshoe out of the air as I spin round.
And that neatly satisfies the create advantage which can be passed to another player, literally in this case.
Okay, so what role would that be to catch? I'm catching a dagger out of me there.
No, don't need that. Advantage which is passed to another character. You have that advantage.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking
instead don't use the bullet point. You create advantage if we lost. Yeah.
Okay, so I have the horseshoe now, and I am calling on. I'm calling on Brigit's steed to trample this this foul demon before its hooves, and I'm kind of I think that what you might see if that was successful, if I can narrate that, is a spectral steed in the colors of flaming autumn leaves, kind of with a streaming mane, kind of charging from out of the shadows, bringing its own light, and rearing up in front of the prefect.
Let's see how use power goes. Will you owe a debt to Brigit, or will you mark wounded?
I think I'll owe a debt to Brigit, as this is kind of a larger thing. So let me.
And you will roll 3d6 and take the top 2.
So how do I get an extra d6 here?
Well, I mean, the other way to do it is roll the 2 you've got and then re-roll the lowest one.
Yeah. So let's re-roll those. Well,
there's a 10.
I get an 8. It's
so re-roll the
3. So re-roll the 3, and that appears to still be a 3 unless something has. So yeah, I think that's still a 3.
Okay, so 8 plus soul is more
a 10.
Okay, so on a 10, it works, and you summon the steed. This steed perhaps even made the appearance of being made of autumn leaves, and it rears above the I almost let it out of the bag then, rears above the prefect, and there's a look of terror on the prefect's face. Aelfwyn, what form does the demon take when it emerges from the prefect?
Let's see. So this demon, I'm trying to remember what we established about what it was doing way back at the very beginning when we got called in to deal with it, what kind of trouble it was making.
The claim was that the prefect's horse had gone lame when this old man had arrived in the town, and that was enough for him to name him a demon. Harsh.
Okay.
The only visualization we've had of the demon was when Morwenna, I think it was Morwenna, did a kind of look into the other world, and she saw the old man with the, well, Morwenna, you describe it. If you can remember it, because I can.
I can't.
Fine. This kind of roiling, oily darkness flowing out of his eyes, into his mouth, out of his ears, just wrapping around the old man. A roiling, oily darkness.
Okay, then I think that's the kind of thing that we see, that it's sort of vaguely humanoid in form, but it's made out of, this like swirling black smoke kind of stuff. And it kind of rises out of him, and like at first it's kind of well defined. It's about the same size as him, and like I said, roughly a humanoid, but it's like it starts to get kind of torn apart by the wind as it comes out and gets dissipated the way, smoke from a fire or something would.
Well then, Morwenna, what do we see then in an interaction between this horse, apparently made out of deep autumn leaves? What interaction we see that with this roiling mass of darkness that will show the darkness being dissipated?
I think that it's literally a dissipation. It billows apart like smoke in the wind of this horse's passage, and you can see that this is a spiritual battle, in that you can see that the leaves that make up the body of this horse are being kind of shed and kind of like blackened and falling, but there's more than is needed to kind of finally kind of drive fully apart this this demon. I think you hear as it's fully broken apart, you hear this unearthly shriek, and the wisps that remain kind of suddenly burst outwards and kind of fly off in all directions into the distance,
with the leaves flowing away with them. Aelfwyn, that's shocking enough, but then you hear a sword being drawn behind you. What do you do?
Spin around to see it.
Martulio has dragged his trews up and drawn his sword. What do you do?
So I'm wondering if what I should do here, because I assume I've filled Morwenna in on the whole what I was planning to do with that cross, where that needs to go to. And I've finished my other tasks that I was sent back to do. I'm wondering if what I should do is just rush Martulio and take his sword on me to allow Morwenna to make a clean escape.
Because one of the questions I was going to ask Aelfwyn at the end is, or towards the end, was this question of, does she want to rest? Because it is possible right now that Woden might make a call to clear the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Or is Aelfwyn not yet ready to pay that last debt?
I think that she's ready.
Then I think in that moment when we've seen the sword coming free and then it freezes and we get that frozen moment of time again, and the hooded one-eyed man is beside, just over her shoulder, whispering, and what he says is, if you wish to rest, Aelfwyn, you will do one more thing for me. Will you do it, Aelfwyn?
I will.
Give the cross to the Prefect and forget those priests.
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So on the one hand, I did promise the priests. On the other hand, I'm not really a follower of their god. And, you know, I've had direct personal contact with the Saxon gods. And, you know, Kigano seems pretty nice, but, you know, the power of his god seems a little limited, couldn't protect that monastery on his own and all that. So I'll say yes, I'll do it.
And then time moves again, the sword comes free. And as Martulio is about to come at you, what do you do? The prefect is on the ground behind you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because then the question is, like, where physically do I have the cross?
I think it's going to be, you know, conveniently present.
It'll be convenient.
You actually thought about whether you should hit him with the cross or go with it. Yeah, so it was in hand.
Yeah. And even if it wasn't, I think Woden would have ensured that it was. Indeed. In order to be able to ask this of me. So I'll scramble back just a bit to give myself a little time before Martulio gets me. I will pull out the cross and I will place it in the prefect's hands.
And that's the point at which Martulio's blade swings down and cleaves you in twain. And how does your dissipation, how does your death, your true death, what does that look like, Aelfwyn? What does Morwenna see? This young girl that she used to care for.
So I think that as I fall to the ground, I start really rapidly, like, shriveling and decomposing. Like, my body returns to the state that it would have been in if I had just been left dead in the first place.
That's neat, because we did in the first episode, I think, have that first time you use seeming human. There's just that moment where you're not sure whether you see the slightly kind of rotted Aelfwyn or the seeming that she casts over herself. Mm-hmm. So that looks good. I think we have elegantly segued from session to epilogue, frankly. So unless Morwenna actively wants to do something, I'm very happy to cut to epilogue for Morwenna.
Sounds good to me.
I don't think I actively want to do anything. I think that I want my epilogue to avoid fighting Martulio and the prefect, and to.
I think that's fine, because I think at that moment I think the prefect will say to Martulio, "No, they freed me," but it's too late because Aelfwyn is already crumbling. So that's not a problem.
So, I think at this point, Morwenna is aware. I'm aware that I've just become a recruit in a spiritual war of which I was previously unaware, and that I have clearly cast for one side, even though I have reservations about the conduct of my general, as it were.
You have chosen the light side.
I've chosen the light side, and I know that this isn't. I know that this isn't the only place where this is occurring. I think the dark side is marshalling their lieutenants, is insinuating itself into places of power, and I think that I try to convince the prefect and the head of the guard of Danum to be aware of this kind of. I know that. I think I'm realizing at this point that this transcends the boundaries of the different gods. This is something on a larger scale, and I think you see the last thing you see is Morwenna with the prefect and Martulio sitting in maybe even a tent rather than the hall, or a strategy table, kind of plotting out movements and kind of gathering forces, gathering allies, and kind of preparing to kind of take this campaign, this spiritual battle, come to the mortal world, to the next level.
Well, I think we just played Rogue One in a series of soon-to-be 6 movies. So I have one thing to add, and I just want to leave this on a shelf, Stentor. If at some point you want to play Eotenweard again, and you're interested in Aelfwyn, there's always a possibility that you owe the one true god a sufficient debt to be brought back. But I think we'll just close there.
Yeah.
So that was a very satisfying finish for me. But I would like to just steal another 5 or 10 minutes of your time, please, for a quick stars and wishes, roses and thorns, because it's the end of the series. In the order of the character keeper, Bodhi, any roses?
The escalation towards the end from everybody, kind of the way that we brought it kind of to a climax, that's a definite rose for me. And you go around doing roses and then thorns, or do
I? Yeah, I'll go on. Stentor, any roses?
Yeah, roses to the whole thing. I mean, we got a lot of some of the hard choices that you threw at me when I didn't roll so well were excellent. And I thought we hit a really good balance, since Bodhi hadn't been in the last session, and then they're getting reintegrated into the story. I think we, between the three of us, we hit a really good balance of getting everything that Aelfwyn needed to do and everything that Morwenna needed to do to kind of have a satisfying finish to the story, and have them work together without stepping on each other and without being like two totally separate stories.
Yeah, I have to say, I thought the pair of you really leaned into one another's stuff there. That was really good. I was slightly nervous about whether we could get a nice, neat, arc. Let alone 2 decent arcs, having lost a session. So no, that was splendid for me. I'd like to offer both of you roses on that basis. I particularly like the decisions that you made, Stentor, in terms of when you were given those hard choices, you went with the interestingly narrative ones that opened stuff out. And likewise, Bodhi, I like the way that you've created the old gods, and that will influence the games that are to come. Thorns, Bodhi, any thorns? System or session or series?
I think for me the only thing that jumps to mind, and I want to kind of extend my roses to the whole thing, because I really agree with what everyone said there, but the one thing that comes to mind is I think I'm not sure that I would have stuck with the idea of hanging back and coming in at a dramatically appropriate point, given that Stentor, you were the only other player. I think that it didn't occur to me until it was too late for this, but I think that given it was just the three of us, I think that I might have been better off coming in earlier, so there was kind of more character interaction at the start. So that's kind of I felt a little awkward when you were the only person playing Stentor. So that was my only kind of. But then the opportunity arose and everything kicked off. So.
Yeah, I there was a lot of pressure on Stentor at the start of that because he was the only active player. But you know, I think that then it did all kick off. I mean, I think did it seem a long time to you, Stentor, to be out there on your own?
It did a little bit, and it, you know, my thorn kind of goes to the circumstances that prevented Kyle and Leah from being here, because I think that, you know, that whole bit would have worked just fine if, you know, Kiganis and Gunjar had been part of that, and then, you know, Morwenna shows up. So I think that was more a product of the circumstances, you know, outside of our control. But
because I did think that, and I was searching for a way to get you kind of there quicker, kind of thing, because I think I was too wedded to this, because I'd had this idea last week that we just let Morwenna use that move to appear when it was fictionally neat. So yeah, I think I put a lot of pressure on you in the first 20-30 minutes.
It worked. It worked. But yeah, it was a little like, okay, I'm carrying the whole story here.
But you carried it very well, if I go back to Roses. Any other thorns, Stentor, apart from that bit?
The only other thing is that I felt like we hit the face danger move a lot, and I'm not sure exactly what, you know, because I mean the game already has lots of moves in it, so I don't know that I necessarily want to be like, yeah, I got to make some more specific moves, but it did feel like we were hitting that one move really often.
Yes, it's cropped up before that, and I'm struggling with how to get round it, to be honest, because there's sometimes you just want that kind of you know, that straightforward roll that gives you a clue of how something goes, and I need to think about that.
It's the danger of having a catch-all move like that is that it starts to absorb a lot of things.
Yeah, it does actually catch all. I've toyed with the idea of just getting rid of it and letting people just go into debt for something to go well. And the other thorn, I'm still not happy with the way that the temptations and the debts interact. They're too weak, but I've been wrestling with that for 6 months now, and I'll carry on wrestling. But no, I just want to thank you both for leaning into the setting. I thought you really kind of, you know, you brought it to life, and you added to the collective sense of what this world is like. So I thank you for that. I'll stop the recording. So wave bye-bye to the internet.